way the world of work was changing. And they heard about this new thing called coaching, and somehow they heard about me. So I then had a TV crew in my office, which incidentally was a shed in the garden, because our son had been born, so he kicked me out of my office, and I was working in this shed. And I had a film crew following me for a week. They followed me, and they followed some of my small handful of clients. And, a few weeks later on sort of national TV here, I had this fantastic exposure. And Yuri, my phone just rang off the hook. It went bonkers.
Yeah.
Right? So suddenly, from having a nice, small, containable little business, I suddenly had more clients than I knew what to do with. It was crazy. So, being like most people in the creative industries, if there's a client there, you say yes. Sometimes. And I said, I said yes to everyone. And so I was working I was just working like crazy. And I thought, this wasn't the plan. I was meant to be building a nice, cruisy, comfortable lifestyle business. And here I am working, 24/7. So what I did was I realized that I needed to kind of get a grip on this. So I pulled all the phone sockets out of the wall for a couple of days, and I sat down and looked at all the notes of all the files of everyone I'd coached, which was by then, I don't know, probably 60 or 70 people. And all the people I loved working with, I put in one pile, and all the other people I put in another pile. And lo and behold, all the people I really enjoyed working with and was really accomplishing some meaningful success for them, we're all solo business people. They're all people running their own one-person business. So being a marketing man, I realized that was a bit of a signal. So I registered the name Flying Solo. And from that day on, I purely spoke to and promoted and marketed to the one-person business. And what happened in a very short space of time is a national newspaper here asked me if I'd write a weekly column about solo business. Then a publisher approached me and asked me if I'd write a book. And it just, when things are right, they're just obviously right. And so it took off. So I wrote a book called Flying Solo, which became a bestseller here. I started an online community with, by then, one partner and subsequently another partner called Flying Solo, which grew to, we had 120,000 solo business members, all Australian. And we had 30 or 40 writers, and we ran events. So, it all just grew from that.
Yeah.
And, anyway, yes, that's my response.
Well, thank you.
I just had a very strong coffee, so, I could...
That was a very thorough answer, so I appreciate that.
Good.
Thank you. So, so you've spent a tremendous amount of time in the solo entrepreneur kind of creative space.
Yep.
So what are, in a lot of the clients that you have spoken with and worked with, what are some of the kind of common stumbling blocks that you see that they constantly hit, and what advice do you give them to overcome those?
Yeah, okay, well, that's a great question. Well, look, with Flying Solo over those years, we ran some very large research programs. We had online, well, they still have, I've sold that business now, but the business continues to prosper. And we ran some big research programs every couple of years, so we kind of know what keeps people awake at nights. We see it through the discussions in the forums. We meet people at events, so we kind of know what it is. And basically, there are 4 key things that are a constant in every research you've done, constantly kind of top the list of challenges. The first is finding enough clients and having enough revenue. So those are kind of 2 things together. So finding enough clients. Now, I'll perhaps come to solutions to some of those things in a second. The second one is wearing too many hats, trying to do everything yourself. Which is a very common trap for a very small business. And when you think solo business, a lot of people think, well, of course you have to do everything yourself because you're working by yourself. But, it's a real trap. And as you would know, and I'm sure a number of your listeners know, you don't have to do everything yourself, and nor should you. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's the second hot button. The third one is actually time management, which is clearly very closely related to the second one, but is having enough hours in the day. People are just not getting done the things they need to get done. And the final one is getting the business model right. So is actually, a lot of practitioners, creative practitioners are very good at their practice, mm-hmm. but they're not necessarily so good at turning that practice into a viable business. Mm-hmm. So those are the four hot buttons. Now, to answer your question is to, what do we sort of do about this? In a nutshell, they're all very much intertwined. What can often happen with a small creative business is we love our practice, we love our work, but we don't necessarily find ourselves hugely skilled in all the areas that we kind of need to be skilled in, or at least have a good knowledge of, particularly marketing. When people are constantly looking for clients, constantly looking for more business, what I'll say to somebody who comes to me or that I come across that is struggling a bit with finding enough clients, usually the first question I'll say is, okay, let's have a look at your diary and see how much time you're spending on business development. Where are your blocks of time? What are you doing in the next 7 days that's going to help your business find more clients? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And often what I'll find is people give me a fairly blank look saying, oh, I'm going to a networking meeting, or I'm sending my email newsletter out and I'll be posting on Facebook 3 times a day. It's like, right. Yeah, okay, those are little sort of actions, but what's your marketing strategy? Who are you really trying to talk with? And unfortunately, a lot of us in small businesses, we just don't have a clear picture of really who our ideal client is. And if we don't have that picture, then how on earth are we going to really find them? And I see so many businesses that are just busy kind of firing off activity all over the place, but it's really not got a terribly clear direction. I mean, there's a gorgeous phrase, I'll just have to remember who said it in a moment, which is, don't count the people you reach the people who count. Now look, that's, sorry, it'll come to me. I'm hopeless at remembering this guy's name. I find that is, is such a key sort of, way of recalling exactly, what we should be thinking about in our actions, because too often you'll find people that are buried in trying to reach a lot of people, whether it's through social media or whatever. But if those are just people, if you're spending your time on Facebook and Instagram and all those things, but you're not really sure, are these the right people for me? Then it's, to a large extent, a fair bit of that can be fairly wasted effort. And that's one of the key places that I'll start with someone is getting clear on who is it that you serve? Who is it that you really want to get the attention of? And let's design your strategy around that. Don't just go out kind of firing everywhere. I mean, Seth Godin, who I'm sure you will know, and a number of the listeners will know, mm-hmm. He also has a lovely quote of his. I can't remember it word for word, but he said it's a lot easier to make your loudspeaker louder than it is to make your message more compelling. And that's such a good point again, is we see a lot of people that are shouting louder, whereas what we need to be focusing on is making your message more compelling. So mm-hmm. that's what a lot of the work I do is kind of in that general space. Yeah. And just to kind of wrap those all in together is when we look at kind of wearing too many hats and time management, is often because we are kind of firing off in all sorts of directions, because we don't really, in a lot of cases, have our priorities kind of front and center. Like, what is the most important thing for you to do today in your business? What's the most important thing for you to do over the next week, over the next month for your business? If we don't have clarity around that, then we will forever keep ourselves busy. We can spend all day in our inboxes. We can spend all day on social media. But is that our priority? Is that what we should be doing? So having a very clear picture of kind of where we're trying to go, what are the 3 or 4 steps that will get us there, and making sure that those things are factored into kind of every day, I just think are really key to sort of underpinning the success of a solo business. And I should just say, I'm talking far too much about work, because there's a whole other side of a successful business that has very little to do with work. Anyway.
Yeah. So what is that other side?
Yeah.
That has to do with
Okay.
work?
Well, I kind of led you there, didn't I?
Yeah.
Sorry. I suppose the way I think of it, it's not, I say the way I think of it is hardly a revelation. What a number of us in our businesses do is that when we are kind of struggling a little bit, we tend to think we just have to sit at our desks or in our studios and just keep doing the work. Whereas in fact, that's, as I know that you know, because I've read some of your work, I've heard some of your opinions on things, that's not the way to do it. Now, I do quite a lot of public events and speaking and things, and I've asked, I don't know how many hundreds of business owners, when do you have your best ideas? And when I ask that question, people say, when I'm out walking, when I'm running, when I'm with friends, when I'm in the shower, when I'm about to fall asleep, when I'm driving. Nobody has their best ideas when they're staring at their monitor.
Right.
Or staring at their canvas even, So what we need to do, what we must do as businesses, is have the courage to step away from our work so that we can get some clarity in our thinking, and staying there, particularly when times are a bit difficult, just going to work, turning everything on, getting into work, is often not what we should be doing. There was, again, there's some lovely phrases about that, but Mahatma Gandhi says something which you will, I'm sure, have heard, which is, I have so much work to do today, I'm going to have to meditate for twice as long. Now, I just think the concept of that is just so beautiful, isn't it? I've got so much work to do today, I'm going to have to meditate for twice as long. And if there's something that I think should be in every single business book, it's something like that, printed on the inside cover, because often what we need to get clarity is to get away, get some space. And I'm not talking about for a huge time, but give yourself permission to just get away from your work, talk with some friends, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, go for a swim. Just give yourself some space. And that's the most courageous thing to do often when you're in a struggle in your work. So,
sure. So I know oftentimes a lot of people are paralyzed by this, like what to do next, or even the fear of making a decision or what to do next. How do you approach that idea of fear and pushing forward?
That's a great question. What a fabulous question. That's got me thinking. Well, look, I think the thing is, if somebody has got a step and they're fearful, and look, I'm thinking of one. I had one yesterday, a kind of a tech fear. I'm in my early 60s now, and I'm pretty good with tech, but I still get things that confront me a bit. And I think, oh my God, what happens if I press that button wrong? And those sort of. So that's a minor example, but it's a fear nonetheless. Right. So what I do in those situations, and what I think we need to do with all fears, is just remind us. And again, what I did, I went for a walk, and I reminded myself. I went for a walk with a pen and a piece of notepaper, is why am I doing what I'm doing? What's life going to be like the other side of this when I've done it? And I reminded myself of that. And it's a kind of, this is a smallish issue, but by the time I've done it, I will have leapt forward and have a new product that I don't currently have. So, I want that. So I reminded myself of that. Then I had a look and I thought, okay, where do I need more knowledge so that I can feel reassured that what I'm about to do is actually achievable? Most things that we do in our work, in our day-to-day life, most things have been done by someone else before. So, and in this day and age with, the internet, with Google and with YouTube, on YouTube, people have done everything. They'll show you how to open a box, for goodness sake. I mean, there's everything there. So again, I thought, okay, let me just reassure myself by seeing what some other people have done. So I did that. So in a short space of time, I reminded myself why I was doing it and what